Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and here's a week where things reset to equilibrium. Shame more the new songs are not that good. It's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. Alright, look, this is one of those weeks where I could complain that it's pretty busy, but I'm not going to. All things considered, the aftermath of the Little Durk album bomb does cause something of a shakeup with the Hot 100, and if that translates to more new music, I think I'm on board, at least for that. Especially as I don't really foresee Machine Gun Kelly having an album bomb next week. Just really wish a lot of the new entries were good. But of course, none of it impacts our top 10, where for yet another week, Heat Waves by Glass Animals is squatting at the number 1. Yeah, it picked up gains on streaming, but let's not act like this is a dominant cultural force on the radio or anything, beyond the fact that the top 10 is really weak right now. Hell, right behind it is Stay by Kid Leray and Justin Bieber at number 2, which is just not in a position to challenge anything because it lags in both categories and it's not gaining anymore. And since Super Gremlin by Kodak Black might have better streaming presence but even less radio, it's stuck at number 3. Now this is where I'm gonna glare with some annoyance at ABCDEFU by Gale at number 4. Yeah, the streaming pickup's a little nice, and the song is still selling, but radio is pulling it, and I just think her label missed a big opportunity to capitalize, get her some traction. Now, Ghost by Justin Bieber could have been a disruptor at number 5, but unfortunately, its radio also stalled out this week. It really only picked up a position because We Don't Talk About Bruno by the Encanto cast hit number 6, because the streaming margin is steadily shrinking. Unfortunately, this continues to open up the door for Enemy by Imagine Dragons and JID, which is narrowing that radio margin and has streaming on the upswing, which is why it hit number 7, and handily keeping ahead of That's What I Want by Lil Nas X at number 8, because its radio run finally lost any momentum. Now, this opens the door for a new top 10 entry, Woman by Doja Cat at number 9. I'm a little bit surprised this actually built up some momentum, but whatever radio deal she had was effective in muscling it up this high. Hell, with Easy On Me by Adele at the downswing at number 10, this was the time to make the move. And top 10 visibility does help songs get an added boost, so we'll have to see where it goes. But speaking of downswings are losers and dropouts, where the only one in the latter category that's really worth talking about is Sacrifice by The Weeknd, which really does feel like it should have been a lot bigger than it was, but apparently radio never really took to it. But the losers here are actually quite straightforward, mostly debuts taking a pretty big dip from last week, looking at Sweetest Pie by Megan Thee Stallion and Dua Lipa down to 25, but specifically Lil Durk's album bomb, which saw Aha at 28, Petty 2 with Future at 62, No Interviews at 68, Barbarian at 79, Golden Child at 80, and Smokin' and Thinkin' at 94. The one loss that was a pleasant surprise was Handsomer by Russ and Caitlyn at 56. I'm not counting this out from making a run, but it very well could. But hey, we can hope it crashes and burns, right? Now for our returns and gains, whoo boy, country really made a stir this week, for better and for worse. I mean, our one return was Come Back as a Country Boy by Blake Shelton at 90. And when we look at our gains, look, I'm not going to be all that happy that songs like Slow Down Summer by Thomas Rhett managed to rebound to 52, or that AA by Walker Hayes hit 41. Now, thankfully, a lot of the country songs were a lot better. Never Wanted to Be That Girl by Carly Pearce and Ashley McBride at 69, Flower Shops by Ernest and Morgan Wallen at 67, Circles Around This Town by Maren Morris at 60. I expect to jump off the album next week, and that could be pretty good. Heart on Fire by Eric Church at 59, Drunk and I Don't Want to Go Home by Elle King and Miranda Lambert on its second wind or at 44, Never Say Never by Cole Swindell and Lainey Wilson at 40, and Doing This by Luke Combs up to 30. Nice stuff. Unfortunately, our non-country entries are pretty rough here. Rumors by Gucci Mane and Lil Durk at 76, To the Moon by J.N.R. Choi and Sam Tompkins at 64, The Motto by Tiesto and Ava Max at 51, and She's All I Wanna Be by Tate McRae at 48. God, I wish I got the appeal of this one. At least to me, just Tate McRae just can't sell any sort of pop rock with presence. It's not working. But of course, the larger story is our plethora of new arrivals this week, and it looks like we're going to be starting in some really rough territory here, beginning with number 99, I Don't Give a Fuck by BoyWithUke and blackbear.
Looking back and I'm sure you still miss me, that's so fun.
You know, every time I think that fuckboy rap was a flash in the pan spurred on by YouTubers dabbling in the scene and me coining a genre term, then TikTok e-boys came around, blackbear stuck around, and then we got the BoyWithUke, who I've been familiar with for a while thanks to his breakout song internationally, Toxic, that's more badly produced bedroom pop in its sound, but from the flows and the attitude, it bleeds this genre. And wow, that's exactly what we got here too. An ugly breakup song where these two cuss out some shallow girls that did them wrong. Now I feel obliged to mention that the ugliness is part of the point. It's supposed to be nasty. But neither of these guys have anything close to charisma or presence in order to make this all that relatable. Also goes way past any sense that they like this girl to begin with, where any trace of sympathy you might have kinda goes out the window when they say that she was ugly with crappy style anyway, and yet of course she still wants them, and that she was adopted? I mean, forget any moral high ground or any sense of melodrama. When you go to that point, you're not so much edgy as just muling dicks who will betray the confidence of a relationship to go past good taste, which really doesn't work with the breezy, I don't give a fuck tone of the song. It's also worth highlighting that the production is terrible. The gutless and cheap acoustics with insufferably grating, high-pitched backing vocals, where the percussion in the groove might be the one saving grace if the vocal mastering wasn't so painfully shallow and tinny. Look, this song falls into the territory of Amen's Fuck It, I Don't Want You Back, with its sniveling fuckboy wallow. And as of now, it might just be one of the worst things I've heard in 2022. Thanks, TikTok. Glad to know you can still deliver the absolute shit. Number 98, She Likes It by Russell Dickerson and Jake Scott.
Have ourselves a little night when I play John Denver through that little Bose speaker and I start dimming those lights.
Not a good sign when I see that song title from Russell Dickerson and just got this sinking feeling. Jake Scott I didn't recognize. Apparently he was a pop singer, has been active in the 2010s, so I didn't really have high expectations. And that was appropriate, because wow, this is pretty rough too. What's bizarre is that this is the sort of song that required very little to work effectively. It's got a spare electric guitar loop, and Russell Dickerson and Jake Scott are singing about all the things for their girls that they like that they can deliver. A little presumptuous in some spots, but the harmonies are decent enough. It's basically a low-stakes campfire song. So why did you drop the clunkiest possible bass and percussion all over it and mix the low end so badly that it clips the entire mix? The percussion was stiff enough, but this swamps out the song so your speakers might start knocking. Certainly not the little bows he references in the song, and it gives us a heaviness it absolutely doesn't need. It's just an utterly bizarre choice for something that was otherwise so simple to work. It's not one that really makes me angry or anything, although if this becomes a sleeper hit, that could very well change. It just becomes this weird misstep of a song. I don't hate it, just kind of mystified they thought it was a good idea. Let's move on. Number 95, Money So Big by Yeat.
I really don't want my money, been talking my money, do dancers. Yeah, shut up. I already heard you, I don't wanna answer. You ruin everything, you touch you a cancer. Yeah.
Oh look, apparently Yeat is going viral on TikTok again. What's the odds that he's got absolutely nothing to say yet again? Yeah. Once again, I'm not hearing any appeal to this guy, who despite jacking a considerable amount of content and flow from Travis Scott, says that all the people are biting him, brags about their women biting his dick. That sounds painful, and the sort of dead-eyed, over-the-top flexing where it's hard for me not to just tune out. Yeat does not have the personality or vocal firepower or skill with wordplay to make this interesting. Granted, the production's of no help. The flat synth behind the whirring slivers of bassy trap percussion, the god-awful vocal mixing trying to claw for air but not giving any real punch and sort of distortion. Apparently, Yeat mixes and masters his own songs, you can tell, and once again, it's all more texture than actual melodic tone. Nothing really sticks out with this. Honestly, it just doesn't even have the decency to go that hard. It's a headache that's profoundly uninteresting. Next. Number 92, Over by Lucky Daye.
Thinking my feelings over. You keep doing it over and over. You keep calling me back.
Alright, this was a nice surprise. I've been waiting on Lucky Daye to have his R&B breakthrough for some time now. He's been stacking up credits behind the scenes since the mid-2000s and has been releasing his own project since 2018. But of course, since he got co-signed through RCA, it's of course taken this long to actually get some new material. Now this is a song from his album from this past March, where he actually samples Music Soul Child. And you know, there's a lot to like about this. Lucky Daye's got a very liquid delivery off the rickety percussion, the wells of backing vocals, the gentle acoustic guitar, and for a song that's all about being tormented by an ex who keeps giving him mixed signals weaving in and out of his life, he can actually sell it pretty effectively, especially when he makes that final decision after the bridge to finally just cut her loose and move on. Now the ending is a little bit abortive, even if it does kind of work in context, but I think my larger frustration is that the song feels a little bit cluttered, maybe even overproduced. The sour elements in the acoustics off the more staccato backing vocals and the pitch shifted elements, they never quite give Lucky Daye the space to really ride the song effectively. At least to a song that I think I might appreciate the construction a little bit more than it clicking as a whole. It's definitely good. I hope it grows more on me. Just not quite there yet. Number 91, Maybe by Machine Gun Kelly and Bring Me the Horizon.
I'm taking the last drink while my conscience eats me. I'm taking the last, I'm taking the last.
I've already mentioned this in passing when I reviewed Mainstream Sellout a couple days ago. I'm gonna try to keep this short. Yes, Ollie Sykes of Bring Me the Horizon makes the song better, he's got firepower, but it also exposes just how awful Machine Gun Kelly sounds on the album, and even if that might be the point, having the contrast pointed out so directly does not help, nor does the melody that feels interpolated directly from Paramore's Misery Business, which is starting to get overexposed. It's also a really sour song, where in the pits of alcohol-soaked misery and depression where they're talking about taking the last in the exit, which again, yes, the ugliness is the point, and even if the guitars feel crushed opposite Travis Barker's drums, I will say I find this brand of ugliness a little easier to swallow, especially as I think the hook's actually pretty decent. Now granted, decent is about the most I'm gonna give this. The flaws are very obvious, and that sourness will make this a tough sell to anyone else. But hey, Machine Gun Kelly did give Bring Me the Horizon their first ever charting entry on the Hot 100. I guess there's that. We can take it. Number 84, Tom's Diner by AnnenMayKantereit and Giant Rooks.
For the man to pour the coffee,
And he feels it only halfway. And before I even argue.
Okay, a lot of folks consider the DNA remix of Suzanne Vega's Tom's Diner to be a classic, one of the most low-key but deceptively potent earworms within trip-hop, and it's a song I really like. So naturally, two German acts decided to remix this song, it went viral on TikTok, and wow. Way to miss the entire goddamn point of why the original was a classic. Throwing in these big, bellowing baritone vocals where there's a bad case of indie vocal fry with no commitment to maintain the atmosphere or groove as the bass line can't stabilize effectively as the guitars and horns just float around with no direction. The original Tom's Diner was low-key and sensual and effective. This feels more like a clumsy farting piss take that where after the one note of shock that what these guys actually sound like, it then proceeds to go on for 4 minutes. I thought the benefit of TikTok is that this would at least be short, and when you realize that this isn't even new, this was a cover apparently made in 2019, I'm left thinking we could have easily ignored this. It sucks. Next. Number 72, Ghost Story by Carrie Underwood. You know, given Carrie Underwood's reputation for murder ballads, I was curious where she was about to take a song with this title. Hell, I was looking to like it. And, okay, this is going to be a niche reference, but does anyone remember Jake Owen's Ghost Town from back in 2013, where he was constantly feeling like his ex was haunting him? Well, that is Carrie Underwood playing from the ghost perspective, and that's a pretty nifty idea, and seems to have some C's to where she plays into some twinkling pianos in a slightly quicker tempo, maybe playing more for the romantic side of ghost stories. That's kind of cool. But the problem is one that I've had with Carrie Underwood for years now. There's no subtlety. She doesn't really really modulate as a singer to set the atmosphere, and the instrumentation ramps straight into strings-backed power ballad mode without much in the way of texture to really sell it. It's kind of frustrating because the idea is cool, and if Carrie Underwood gave this a little bit more room to breathe with greater dynamics, hell, if there was a song that could actually afford to lean on the reverb, it would be this one. Might really work. I mean, I could really get into this. But as it is, I mean, it's fine, but it's not nearly as good as it should be. Number 61, Computer Murderers by Lil Durk.
Say his name 'cause he ain't dead. How you let a nigga vouch for you who just got out the fence? Sneaking pics back Vaughn Road like Lil Bro won't come out and spin.
Hey look, it's a deluxe cut from Lil Durk's album from last week, where he's leaning into the diss material, going after a bunch of local rappers in Chicago who have crossed him. And while I want to avoid the young boy beef conversation, that's overexposed, it's also clear Lil Durk is not shying away from it, and I'm split between whether or not he's just taking the bait or just riding the added attention, because neither are a good sign, especially when on this song he admits he's still grieving for the losses, but he's gonna swing around and open fire regardless, even if him going out so much is getting him in trouble with his girl. I mean, come on, by this point it's not worth it. And when the song feels like an overexposed, rather cheap sounding fragment with the bells playing off the piano loop and a hook where even he sounds exhausted, I have no reason to give this any more attention. Let's just move on. Number 57, Sometimes by Juice WRLD.
Sometimes.
So again, I already said my piece about the second posthumous Juice WRLD album bomb a few months back, but now we got a deluxe of that too, with this new song charting that Juice WRLD apparently previewed on his Instagram back in December of 2018, and then the song leaked in January of 2020, and yeah, I'm sorry, this one's not doing it for me either. The one thing I'll say is that on the refrains, Juice WRLD really did show off his pipes belting about how much he hates the world amidst a wallow of drugs, guns, and his own demons, although he also mentions that he would rather vote for Hillary. That was interesting. But outside of that, in between the stock trap percussion and murky melody that gives the song no momentum, it feels like a wallow that might work for the fans. Apparently it's been a fan favorite for some time, but it feels really tired and regurgitated to me, especially out of Juice WRLD's catalog. We've heard this before. Again, it feels kind of skeevy how Interscope's been drip feeding these posthumous cuts to wring out any profit. And even if the song is fine, I guess, I have no reason to give this any more attention. I'll say it again. Number 50, Nobody Like You by 4Town.
I'm never not by your side. Your side. I'm never gonna let you cry. Oh, cry, don't cry. I'm never not be alright. Alright.
Alright, a little bit of context. This is a song from a manufactured boy band called 4Town in the universe of the Pixar film Turning Red, which I have not yet seen, but I've been told it's pretty good. I've also heard that many of the boy band songs are a highlight, and while the film's time frame and Canadian setting would place boy bands slightly out of sync with reality, that is me nitpicking as someone who grew up in this era and setting, and yet was nevertheless curious about how Phineas of all people would deliver in the singing and production. And, you know, I feel like there's some things to appreciate this, but I also kind of think it's a bit of a miss in the fine details. It's probably closest to Backstreet Boys more than NSYNC, even despite some of the acoustics, mostly because by the more textured, husky vocals, the sharper minor key keyboard stabs, the scratching, the very poor attempt at rap, and how there's nobody here that's got the pipes or naked charisma that Justin Timberlake did, as an ensemble, feels more balanced. It's up my alley. The problem is that in the scope of mixing and stylism, this would actually be a lot closer to Backstreet Boys circa Backstreet's Back in the late 90s. And Phineas is no Max Martin. The song just does not pop off that central melody in the same way. Not saying it's bad. The vast majority of people would not care this much, and the target audience would not have grown up paying that much attention to the fine details over 20 years later. Hell, this is a kids movie after all. But if it's supposed to be a single to sell the group, it does feel like a lesser album cut as somebody who, again, grew up in that time. It's not bad, not quite great though. Wanted to like it more. And on that topic, number 37, Blick Blick by Leray and Nicki Minaj.
Watch it, blick, blick. Yeah, push it, click, click. Yeah, pop up on the up, watch it, blick, blick.
Not embarrassed to say that I actually had some hopes with this. Even despite her limitations, I like Leray more than most, and Do We Have a Problem is still a really good Nicki Minaj song that probably deserves more attention. I did think this collab felt a little bit strange. Their energy seems to be in very different places, and that producing credit from Dr. Luke does not help matters. I'm not sure I like this that much either. For one, it asked Leray to get on some sharper trap production with the eerie melody, and while Nicki is a strong enough lyricist to command the atmosphere of something that's spare, Leiray's limitations are very obvious, where she can't just bounce off the production with any sense of playfulness. She sounds stiff and a little clunky, and the go-to sex bars and the repeated words, they don't really impress me for her as a lyricist. It's the exact same problem that Playboy Cardi has. If the production's not there, he's gonna struggle. So what about Nicki? Well, what about her? It's one of those verses where she's defaulting to hashtag rap and her flexing as she changes up her flow, and if there was a song for her just to spit hard all the way through, it is this one. Now, I'm not sure the production is giving her much to work with either, but she's got less of an excuse as the more experienced MC, and while the punchlines are okay, they aren't as impressive as Nicki seems to think they are, given how much she emphasizes them. I don't know, apparently this is one of the big gets for Leiray's debut album this year that I'm kind of curious to cover, but it feels like a swing and a miss. Not precisely bad, but again, I wanted to like this more. Hell, that might as well be the statement of this week, where the good songs were nothing exceptional and the bad ones were fucking atrocious. Let's deal with those first, where I Don't Give a Fuck by BoyWithUke and blackbear is getting the worst by a friggin' country mile, with that awful Tom's Diner cover as the dishonorable mention. Now, the best of the week, Over by Lucky Daye, if only because it feels the most refined and it'll probably grow on me. An honorable mention to Maybe by Machine Gun Kelly and Bring Me the Horizon. I mean, the hook and Ollie Sykes are at least good here, and for what it's trying to do, I will take it. I don't expect an MGK album bomb next week, but you never know. Stay tuned for that fun experience. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.